Menopause guest.
MVP.
Hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
You never get ahead of yourself. As Harris down the field,
I know Rennies do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 84. I got myself, Al Ryan, Chris Guest. He's upgraded from a questionable tag on the injury report yesterday. He is available for action tonight, dealing with some flu-like symptoms over there in Collegeville.
Limited minutes.
I thought he was listed as out. We might get fined for this.
That's true. The injury report was a little askew as we had to activate him late in the day. But listen, that's the norm for the Philadelphia sports teams. Injury reports don't matter.
I'll tell you what, that beat hits different with these Beats headphones. I'll tell you that.
Episode 84 tonight. I'm going to throw my man Al Ryan a bone here. One of his favorite receivers of all time. One of the best receivers we've ever seen. Also known for kind of his antics off the field as well as his antics on the field. It's that Antonio Brown, number 84.
It is not that Antonio Brown. It is the most hard to defend receiver of all time. In my opinion, the greatest receiver of all time, Mr.
Great cash, homie.
Himself, Randy Moss, the first soundbite in 3K history in honor of this episode tonight, 84 for Randy Moss.
Straight cash, homie. Absolutely. All right, let's do a little cleanup, boys, before we jump into our first segment tonight. Before we even get going, I want to give a shout out to my man Thomas Phone. He's the winner of the first ever 3K fantasy contest. Got his payment. The beautiful thing is, I don't know him. You don't know him. Chris doesn't know him. He's a random guy out there. So congrats to him. He did his thing.
Oh, really? We had an actual a fan from out in the world.
I don't know.
It could be the guy from Germany. It could be Saber's alter ego, or more than likely, it's like the random Japanese dude that entered the Rumble in '93. Just nobody knew who he was.
Listen, our listeners are fans and friends and family in this with 3 in the Keystone. So even if we don't know you, we know you.
Absolutely. And we're going to have more of that stuff coming up in the future. So stay tuned for that. But shout out to Thomas, who brought the big win in. And Chris, you just couldn't get it done. Pacheco couldn't show out for you on Super Bowl Sunday.
I was hoping he broke one loose, but it never happened. But it's all good. I'm happy for my man.
Absolutely. But Chris, I would want to ask you, or actually it was Al this week. Our other news are our new partners, the Sunshine Sandwich Shop, 5154 Ridge Ave in Manayunk. Chris, you tried it last week. Al, you were there as well. This past week, give us another review.
I was there, butts to the ground. Listen, I got the Tommy Chong, which is their trademark sandwich. It's the roast pork with the delicious broccoli rabe, which they put a lot of it on there, which I love. And they have this long hot pesto, which I've never heard of before. It was absolutely delicious. Gave it just the right amount of kick. I spoke with the head chef there, Chelsea, for a little while. She was an absolute delight. We talked a little bit about food and just a little bit about life. I had a sandwich, chips, and iced tea, sat down. Great aesthetic at the place. They got the old school TVs all lined up. They got all local products there for you to sample and buy. It's at 5154 Ridge Ave, so make sure you get to the Sunshine Sandwich Shop. Tell them the 3K podcast sent you. I'll be back. So if you see me, let's have a sandwich together because I'm definitely going back. I got to get another one. That one's not enough.
I guess I got to make my appearance now. You guys have both dabbled in. I haven't got a chance to get down there yet.
Yeah, what are you waiting?
I'll tell you what, we might have to have Casey join out next time. I don't know him talking to this Chelsea girl about life and sandwiches. Talking about he going to be coming back. We might have to have Casey make that trip.
Hey, yo, whoa.
Hey.
Al, you want to shout out to social media?
Yeah, make sure you're giving us a follow, guys. So on Instagram, we are at 3K_podcast. I've been trying to do some more posts lately, just on the daily, some stories, polls, all that good stuff, which will help us. We can react to it on the show each week. And then on Twitter, aka X, it's at 3K Podcast, and on YouTube at 3 in the Keystone, all one word. Give us a follow, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Help grow the brand, and we'll help, do good by you. We'll run some more contests, giveaways, all that good stuff.
Sounds good to me. All right, gents, let's jump into segment 1. We talked last week. It was a little bit of a Sixers deadline primer, as well as the Embiid injury. Well, the deadline has come and gone, and here's your net. In is Buddy Hield, Payne, 2 second-round picks, and we'll add Kyle Lowry, who officially signed his contract just a few hours ago off the buyout market. Out is Jaden Springer, Daniel House, Furkan Korkmaz, who's finally free from the NBA at this point, Marcus Morris, Pat Beverly, and 4 second-round picks. The initial reaction to the trade deadline was that the Sixers didn't know what they were doing. I know, Chris, you and I disagreed on a few things, but let's go to what your initial reaction was on the deadline moves. We'll start with you, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, like I said on my reels on our IG page, I'm a big fan of Hield. I like his fit here. I had no problem with that move. My issue was with the Springer move. My other issue was, more importantly than anything, was we did not address getting another big in here to get rebounds, and we did not address our defense. And they both are very horrendous right now. And I know we won last night, but it almost reared its ugly head at the worst time, because we almost blew a 10-point lead with a minute and change to go because we couldn't stop any shot and we couldn't get a rebound. Cleveland at one point had a possession that I believe they had 4 chances to score because we just could not get the ball. And the Cavs have been lights out. And listen, that win last night was a great win. It was a good character win. It was a big win on the road against a team that was like, what, 19 or the last 20, I believe, and 9 in a row.
17 of 18. Yeah,
17 of 18.
Yeah.
And 9 in a row at home. Or was it at home or overall? 9 in a row.
Overall was 17-1. I'm not sure what they've done at home, but
I believe it was. I think they hadn't lost a game at home since like December 29th or something like that.
You're right. You're in the right area.
So, like, that was a huge win, and doing that without Embiid, without Tobias, without Batum, without Melton, key guys on our team. But I'm looking. I never thought Cleveland was. I know you guys are bigger on Cleveland than I am, and have been. I like our chances against Cleveland. I always have. I'm looking at us against Boston and against Milwaukee, and even against a team like the Heat, who every year gets hot at this time of year, which they probably are about to start now. Any day now, they're going to get hot again to propel them into the playoffs. And those are the teams that I look at to see where we fall when it comes to going head to head with those groups. And defense and rebounding are going to be huge problems for us.
All right, well, let me throw this to you. I agree they probably should have done, and Daryl said that they were trying to get a big man at the trade deadline and just couldn't get the deal done. But at the end of the day, Chris, this team doesn't stand a chance to win a title without Joel Embiid. Sure. And he is the guy that boosts that defense and boosts that rebounding. So if they don't have him, it doesn't matter anyway at that point. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, of course. And I would also say, if the rumors are true that the Bulls wanted a first for Drummond, then I get why he didn't pull the trigger with Drummond. I would have done that either. But there had to be some other opportunity, some other option, somewhere to be creative for him to get another big in here that can rebound. I don't even need a guy that can score. I just need a guy that can board. We don't have any guys I mean, you guys have even said before about like how Embiid isn't the best of rebounders at his position as it is. So he would make it better being on the court, but it still doesn't. I mean, we've had issues with rebounding even with him on the court.
But I don't know who you bring in, because if Drummond was rumored to the price was rumored to be a first-round pick, and then we saw Kelly Olynyk did get a first-round pick from Toronto, who just gives those things away like candy, then it seems like that the market just wasn't, it truly wasn't there. I mean, who are we going to bring in? A Bismack Biyombo?
No. Why'd you say that like one of the Bushwhackers? Yay, Bismack Biyombo!
But let me quick. So I want to jump in here because I feel like the moves at the deadline was almost like we wanted to give the illusion that we were buying by bringing in Hield, But then a lot of the other moves felt like selling because we're dumping contracts, we're dumping money, Daniel House and Jaden Springer, and we're just bringing back more draft capital and assets as far as second round picks go. The one thing I like is that they did trade some defense for offense. We're a poor shooting team. We rank towards the bottom of the league as far as 3-point attempts, 3-pointers made, 3-point percentage, and a guy like Buddy Hield just immediately is going to be able to bring that up and improve our team in that area. This is a guy that's not shy to take 10 threes a game. And I think it's a guy that we've needed in this offense for a while now, maybe ever since JJ Redick hasn't been around. He's a bona fide third scorer, potentially behind Joel Embiid when he's healthy, obviously, and Tyrese Maxey, and he actually helps space the floor line. He's a better passer than I thought. He was
a better playmaker. Yep.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten to look at him too much, obviously, being out in Sacramento and Indiana. But I'm seeing him, make some good passes, being able to see the floor. I'm assuming and hoping that we keep him, especially with all the money that we're going to have to spend in this weak free agent market. So I think he's an upgrade. And then I think the Lowry move, I think getting rid of Pat Bev was because we knew we were going to bring Lowry in, and he's going to fill that role of the, coach on the floor, captain role, team leader role that we're going to miss from Pat Bev.
I was going to say, but then why even get rid of Beverly then?
So I think the answer to that is I think it was pretty clear to Nurse. Again, you got to think Kyle Lowry and Nick Nurse have history from their Toronto days. Lowry was the point guard on that championship team. And I don't think they're bringing in Kyle Lowry if he's not going to be the backup point guard. So at that point, they're probably saying, well, if we can get a second-round pick for a guy who's probably not going to be in the rotation at this point, we may as well just grab it because we're not going to use him. Listen, Pat Bev was awesome here. Like, let's not treat it for what it was. He was better than I thought he was going to be on the court. Off the court, he was just a delight. The podcast was tremendous. He brought a lot of things to the table. But they needed an offensive spark plug. And while he's been better offensively than they thought, Kyle Lowry is still a better offensive player at this point in his career than Pat Beverly is. So we'll see what the legs have left for him there. We'll miss Pat's antics, but again, I think it's not that much of a game changer to move Pat Bev in that situation.
But then here's my other issue with that then, Seltzer. If that's the case where he's going to be a backup point guard, then what was the point of getting Payne? Payne is probably better than both of them, offensively at least.
I think
fact,
offensively,
there's no probably. He definitely is better than offensively.
Right.
You probably just had to take back some salary in that contract, and that's the guy they ended up taking. I think Payne may still, again, find himself playing 5 to 10 minutes a night and trying to give you a spark plug on certain nights. But I think he'll kind of bounce his way out of the rotation. But he's been better than I thought he's been.
He can score. Yeah, he can shoot it. He shoots around 40% from 3, something around there.
Which is crazy given the form he has on his jump shot.
Yeah, he's got this lefty shot.
That's generous though, Guess. That he's like 33% on the year. He's like 36 career.
Is he? I thought he was higher than that.
Yeah, campaign. Unless there's another campaign.
Champagne with the campaign.
I saw he was higher than that.
No, he's 36. Al,
you're looking at he's been 33% since he joined the Sixers. He was 39% with Milwaukee.
All right, we'll combine it. Add it up, average it out. What do we get?
39. Listen, I wanted to talk a little bit Jaden Springer, Chris, because I know you and I disagree on this a lot. Jaden played 2 really good games defensively against Dallas and Golden State. There's no denying that. There's no denying how good of a potential defender he could be. But I will throw this to you. Those 2 games, coincidence or not, percentile for the Sixers as far as effective field goal percentage as a team was the 7th percentile and 8th percentile with him on the floor. I just do not think in the league as it is now, if you are a guard and you cannot score, I don't think you could play on a championship level team. I don't even think as big it's borderline if you can't score. And I don't see that from Jaden. And from the comments that Daryl Morey made in his press conference that they thought that Springer was 3 or 4 years away from being able to contribute on a playoff team, I read that as him being nice and being like, this guy's never going to be able to contribute on a playoff team because he's not offensively talented enough. And I get the fact that they trade him to Boston, so that makes it all the worse. But at the end of the day, if you don't think a guy can play, like it's not a big deal. And I don't think he's ever going to be able to contribute on a consistent level because of his lack of offensive skills. It's not only the shooting. He can't put the ball on the floor. He's not a great passer. He doesn't look confident on the floor. I think it was the right time to pull the plug. They were going to probably lose him in a year because of his free agency anyway. So they got a second-round pick. It is what it is. They've got themselves additional FAR under the tax so they can get buyout guys. I had no problem with the move.
I just hate that it had to be to Boston, but I feel a little bit better about it due to the fact that afterwards, what was said from Morey regarding his thoughts on it, because that tells me, to your credit, Seltzer, what you just said, that they they see this guy, they see all these guys at practice every day, and there's sometimes some guys just flash a practice and it tells the front office, like, hey, this guy, it's any minute now, any game now, this guy's going to pop off. And he clearly must not have shown that, offensively at least, in what they've seen from him since he's been here. Even though he did great in the G League and all that kind of stuff, we know that the G League to NBA, the gap is huge. I mean, Paul Reed won MVP of the G League, and he's very much a jag in the NBA. So, but I think that the Boston thing is what hurt the most, because if he does pan out, he's going to be Marcus Smart 2.0, and that's going to suck.
Yep.
And that's what I'm afraid of the most.
I said the same thing, Guess, because Marcus Smart was a guy who in college, when you watched him play, you said he lacks so much offensively, but then he goes to Boston and they get him to figure it out, and in the most clutch of moments. And now we potentially have to deal with, if we get this far in the playoffs, potentially Jaden Springer locking up Tyrese, or
Springer's not going to play in the playoffs,
locking up Buddy, or Pat Bev locking one of them up.
Well, that's the other thing,
guys. Marcus Smart was the number 5 pick in the draft. It's not like he was a nobody coming out of college.
Oh no, but we know guys can grow and play beyond their. I mean, look at Maxey. Maxey was a 21st pick.
I understand that.
Right. And this is just so Philly, dude. This is what Philly does. They get rid of guys, they go somewhere, and they blossom.
But like Matisse Thybulle is a very similar situation. Like Matisse Thybulle's going to Portland, and he's just sitting. He's doing the same thing he did here.
Rashawn Holmes left and became a damn near all-star almost.
Yeah, but he's out of the league.
Isaiah Joe, I'm saying, still, it doesn't take much to flash for 1 year, and especially, dude, he's going to go to Boston and give up all the secrets.
What about Landry Shamet?
Well, that's a great point. Al, I'm sorry, Seltzer. That's a great point, Al. They get a guy who has been in our gym for 3 years now, and with a lot of similar pieces at Boston already. I mean, they're as a rival team, they already know a lot about us anyway. But there are certain things that they may be missing with their scouting reports and all the other kind of stuff that he can help them with.
All right, let me counter that point to you. They already have Sam Cassell, who's been here for 3 years and knows all that stuff.
That is true. That is true.
And let me
beat our ass for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need any secrets.
Let me counter that point. That's the last thing they need. We need to start bringing some of their guys. Let's get Sam Hauser into the building.
I was trying to get Pritchard at some point, but
give me Taco Fall. Where's Taco Fall at?
Taco's playing in Taiwan or something.
I think what you saw.
Can you imagine a lineup with Taco Fall and Mo Bamba out there together?
Listen,
Bull.
I was looking at some statistics from cleaningtheglass.com, and since Joel went down, and I'm talking as far as even average, they've only had one. The Sixers have had one above average offensive performance before the trade deadline, and that was the Utah game when Maxey went crazy. There was a dire need for this team to upgrade the offensive side of the ball, and that's what they went and they did when they got Buddy and they got Campaign. And you mentioned earlier the 3-point volume. They were only shooting like 20 to 25 threes a game, and these other teams are shooting in the low 40s. And there's just no way to keep up at that point. So they had to make a move there to add the 3-point volume. And these are the kind of players you want to put around Joel. And Al, you asked the question, you hope they re-sign Buddy. I don't see any way they make this deal unless they think that they're going to sign Buddy Hield. Because again, they're talking about all this cap space that they have at the end of the year. And essentially, right now, you have Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and maybe Paul Reed on guaranteed contracts.
Right.
There's 9 other roster spots you need to fill in, guys.
And as we've talked about in the pod before, and you guys have tried to explain to me what they are, and I still don't understand. From what I've gathered, we have the bird rights to Buddy Hield. Am I correct?
You are correct.
So there we go. That means he's staying, as far as I understand.
Well, we all thought in 2019 that there'd be no way that they would have traded for Jimmy Butler if they weren't going to plan on doing what they could to re-sign him, and that didn't happen. So You still never know until it happens. But I would support him. I would definitely support having Buddy back. And Al, you had said earlier about him getting a guy that's comfortable with shooting 10 threes a game. The Sixers are even more comfortable with him shooting 10 threes a game. I would imagine that they want him to at least be shooting 10 threes a game.
Yep.
One more thing I wanted to say with Springer. Do you think, to play devil's advocate, that a big reason for his lack of offensive production is because of him being in lineups with Maxey, Tobias, Joel, Kelly Oubre, who hasn't passed in 2 games? Do you think that there's any issue, like any possible, like it may not all be his fault that he can't score because he's only getting limited opportunities?
Guess.
I just saw Ricky Council go for 18.
18 and 10. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying that I believe in this.
As a defensive-minded player myself, I can tell you that no, he just stinks on offense.
Fair enough. But all jokes aside, Kelly Oubre's got he makes me look like Chris Paul.
Yeah,
like this guy.
He's a jack.
Dude, he literally hasn't passed in 2. I haven't seen him pass since like last week.
Didn't I? I sent a text. I think I sent it to you guys before this Cleveland game. He went. It was like 120 minutes. He had 1 assist.
Yeah, he's the guy.
Minutes.
He's the guy at the gym that just gets the ball and just jacks.
And dude, he made it. He took such a bad shot last night when they were up 7 with like 1:30 to go, and he just pulled a 3 at the top of the key with like 20 seconds left on the shot clock.
And he could score. Look, brother could score the ball, but my thing
need
is
it right now.
Right, but my thing is like that's why he only made a couple dollars this year with a 1-year deal. It's 100%. It's those kind of things that are the reason why he can't get a payday, a legit one, or longevity with a team, because that must suck playing with a guy like that.
I don't know the efficiency numbers, and we're not big analytics guys on this show, but I would imagine his efficiency has to be awful.
Because everybody in the NBA can score. That's why they're there. They're all professional basketball players. Right. So for them, it's not like he's playing with like us on a rec team. Where we're like, well, Kelly's got to score a ball, so whatever he wants to do. These guys all can get the ball in the basket. They're all looking at him like I mean, there was a couple times yesterday where I saw like Buddy was open for a 3, just like took a contested shot at the rim, or different things where I'm like, why are you like? How do you not think to pass the ball to somebody in that spot instead of just going for yours in the wrong times?
Al, actually a career high field goal percentage, but his 3 ball is right around normal, about 32% from 3. He's not a very good 3-point shooter.
No.
But 46% from the floor, which is
he'd be even better if he let the game come to him instead of forcing shots. But I'm not saying I don't like the guy. I'm fine with him. I don't have an issue with him. I'm just saying I think he could be even more efficient if he utilized the pass and like kept his head up and saw what was going on around him. And I wanted to also add one more quick thing too, with the Lowry thing. You guys know how I feel about Kyle Lowry. So the whole like, I'm coming home, the whole IG that don't do nothing for me. Okay, he's still a rat. He'll always be a rat. Okay, but with that being said, the Sixers are more important to me than any of their parts, any of their players. So if he's a Sixer, I still want him to do well because I want the team to do well. Would you consider? This might be a hot take. I don't like Maxey full time as a point guard anymore. I feel like he's not as effective with the ball constantly in his hands. He doesn't have the vision of a pure point guard. He can play point guard, but he doesn't have the vision of a true point guard. So in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is, when I watch him play and lead the offense as the point on the floor, to me it minimizes his offensive game against a lot of teams that are like, especially playoff caliber teams. Like last night we saw, he didn't have a great game offensively. A lot of time he's forcing shots. He'll force a 3 or a couple threes because he's just like, all right, I don't see anything open. I'll just shoot a 3. Whatever. He's not getting off screens and using his speed to his advantage away from the ball. And I just feel like maybe a guy like Lowry with Maxey, I know they're small, but I wonder what that would do to Maxey's game offensively, especially in the playoffs. And also, traditionally, 2s are not as good defensively as 1s. So if you put him against another team's shooting guard versus their point guard, that might be a better matchup for us with his speed and his shot.
So you're looking to rotate the two of them and Hield, right? Because
and that's the thing too, right? Because Hield you could probably put at the 3 if you had to for a few minutes, but I don't know if I would trust that long term. But I like Batum at the 3 with Tobias at the 4, and assuming everybody's playing, because you talk about being better defensively than I thought. Batum can play defense. I didn't think Batum was that great of a defender before he got here, but watching him, I don't know if he's been rejuvenated from playing with a contender and with Nick Nurse the coach, but like he's been really good, I think, defensively this year.
He's long and pesky.
He's very long, yeah. So I want him at the 3, but I was just considering, like, last time I'm watching, I'm like, I just feel like Tyrese is better when he's off the ball than when he is dominating the ball.
So,
and I wanted to see what you guys' thoughts was on that.
No, a lot to unpack there. I actually agree with you. I think that if you could put him in more of a mold of, like you saw last night, like a Donovan Mitchell.
Correct.
Donovan Mitchell plays off the ball,
right,
scores, 100%. But he also handles the ball a lot, right? He's still, and he has a Darius Garland beside him where he's not dribbling the ball up the floor every single time. So I agree, a guy like that could actually help unleash him and get him some better looks. I think the one thing that's kind of sitting in this that we haven't talked about for the Sixers is, you guys mentioned Batum, and Melton's another one. These are two guys that have injuries that have kind of been swept under the rug. Batum is 34, 35 years old. He's been out 3 separate times with hamstring injuries at this point. Like, who knows how bad that is?
Well,
D'Anthony Melton, have we heard anything on Melton? He's been out a month.
No, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good that we haven't heard anything. And a back is bad, man.
Right. So I don't think if you see those guys the rest of the way, like, I don't think we're seeing 30 plus minutes out of either of them the rest of the way. So, Chris, to your point, I think you're going to see some lineups with Kyle Lowry, Tyrese Maxey, Buddy Hield as the 1, 2, and 3 playing alongside each other. I don't have any doubt of that. But I don't think it's going to ever get to the point where Lowry's playing 30 plus minutes a night as a starting point guard next to Tyrese Maxey.
No.
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and to your point, you mentioned the defense. Lowry, for the fact that he can't move his feet and he's not nearly as fast as he once was, he does have that Marcus Smart where if guys are bigger than him, he's strong. And, like, he's not going to get posted up on. Like, he can play that type of game, and he'll take charges. Like, I'm not worried about him defensively from, like, a toughness standpoint at all.
No, I agree with that. I'm just worried about him just offensively. His stats have gone down. They've declined pretty sharply over the last couple of years. His percentage from 3 has declined.
Not this year, though. He's 39% from 3 this year. Now, he's not shooting a high volume, only 4 games.
That's what I was going to say. He's not really shooting like he used to. But
his last 5 games, he's a big old 0 for 18 from 3.
Yeah.
He can run hot and cold, that's for sure. But I think he's going to give this team a lot of the stuff that Pat Beverly gave this team as far as leadership goes. He's been through the wars, dude.
Yes.
From back when he was in high school and college, like he's been a winner.
He's filling both the Marcus Morris and Pat Bev. He's like the combination of the two of them, being from the area, being from North, and then being a point guard.
And I'll say too, I hated, and I get that it had to get done for the deal to get done, but I hated losing Marcus Morris. I thought Marcus Morris did a really good job. And I think he's a guy that you could use and you'll need to use in the postseason. And I just didn't feel right adding him in that deal. But I know it was a necessity, apparently. I'm sure that they've required that to make that move. But are they going to keep him in the
I think he signed with Minnesota. They let him go.
Okay, I was going to say, because I was hearing he was going to get waived. I didn't know whatever happened after that.
I think he went to Minnesota.
All right, well, that's good for us, and you don't have to be able to worry about him.
Yeah. And yeah, he was good. He did some good things for us. There's no question about it. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like a lot of his jump shots were really difficult shots, and he made them. I'll give him credit for that. He makes them. Yeah. I mean, he couldn't jump over a piece of paper or into some of those jump shots.
I need him to. But he made those shots against us all the time. Or we're like, how is this dude making every shot? And it was nice to see that on our team for once.
Yeah. No, I know. He did his. He was again better than I thought he was going to be along the way too. So best of luck to him along the way. So my final question to you guys before we wrap up segment 1: if Joel Embiid comes back, whatever version we're going to think, I'm not going to say 100% because I don't think he's ever going to get to 100% this year. Do any of these moves change your ceiling on what this Sixers team can be in the playoffs? Start with Al.
No.
Chris?
You said it, Joel. He will not be 100% this season for an entire playoff run. And this team is a third-tier team in the East without him. So even if he's like 70% or whatever he might be, no, it changes nothing. We're still clearly looking up at Milwaukee and Boston at minimum.
Third tier. Who's the second tier?
I got Boston and Milwaukee in the first tier, and then like New York's in the second tier. Like we're looking up at New York.
He's saying without Joel.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with Al with that.
You think that I'm sorry. Do you
Diversity in the chat. We're so back. Title incoming.
Do you think that we could take – I feel like we ask this question every year, but after what you saw last night, do you think that without Embiid even, we could beat the Cavs in a series, 7 games?
No, I don't think so.
You said it yourself, too small.
I don't even think we beat the Pacers in the series without Embiid.
I still think we could beat the Cavs.
Or
I don't
the
know about
Heat.
the Pacers.
I don't
think we could beat the Heat.
I think we're going to end up playing the Knicks.
Guess what, man? That will be a war.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
That is that'll be awesome. That's good for the NBA, a Sixers Knicks playoff series.
I think that's coming. You can
That
quote
would be
me on
awesome. So, and what round is that? The first round
that.
matchup?
I think it's gonna be the 4-5. I mean, because you got Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland. That's 1, 2, 3 setting itself up. I think the Sixers have done enough to stabilize themselves to be in that 4-5.
Okay, so what is Embiid? Best case is what? March? At the end of March? Or are we still? Is this? I mean,
I think best case you're looking the last week of March.
okay, because if we can, I'm just trying to figure out if we can stay within like 3 or 4 games of that third. I guess the third spot, because Cleveland's going to eventually come back down to earth. They're not a 19-1 team over 20 games. They're not that.
Yeah, but they're 3.5 up on us, and we don't have Embiid. So like,
well, that's what I'm saying. So if we could stay within 3, 4, 4.5 games of that spot, and then have about three or so weeks with Embiid, you never know what could happen before the playoffs start. But again, the whole concept of this conversation is based around Embiid and his health, and he has not shown that. I mean, who knows what the Sixers look like with a healthy Embiid in the playoffs, period, let alone who cares who else is on the team? What does that look like anyway?
And wait, real quick, our next 5 are Miami, New York, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Boston.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you got to add in the fact, again, I was looking at this. If you include last night's game, it's Cleveland. You got to add at Cleveland to that 6. So it's 6 hard games in a row where you went in being like, dude, we could lose. We can go 1-5. Now all of a sudden I'm looking at Miami tomorrow coming in on a back-to-back. They're playing Milwaukee tonight. Jimmy Butler's out. Terry Rozier's out. You say maybe we can steal another one. Then all of a sudden you're 2-0 and you got 4 games up. You can see 3-3 coming out of that stretch, which is a win at this point.
I remember having a similar conversation about the Eagles and a tough stretch, and then it all went to shit.
Yeah, true.
Well, also the wild card again, Nick Nurse. We didn't have him before. We have a coach this time. I'll tell you what. Embiid back at 80% or whatever percent where he's going to actually be effective. I'd like our chances against Milwaukee.
Guess how far do we get with these moves if Embiid's back for the playoffs? We're not saying 100%, but back.
If he's back for the playoffs, I mean, I think they could still get to the conference finals.
Man.
I'm already maybe
they could. I'd say it will, but they could.
Maybe it's too much Doc Rivers entrenched in my mind, but I can already hear the Joel was back, but he didn't have chemistry with enough time with Buddy or with Kyle Lowry to truly develop the chemistry, and they'll get a chance to do that next year together, and we'll run it back again next year. I can already hear that stuff.
I don't think that,
in my head.
I don't think Nick goes that way. Nick's not a guy built around excuses like Rivers is.
It sounds more Daryl-ish to me though.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
look, we just talked about the next 5 real quick before we wrap this up. The last 5 games of the season: Memphis, San Antonio, Detroit, Orlando, Brooklyn. So just get there. Just get there.
and that's my point.
Still 5
Right.
and
That's my point. So we could still, it's still there to be had. Like
Yeah.
Boston is clearly the top team,
Well-
best team, but everybody else to me, like it's just a matter of who's going where we playing at. I mean, that's what it comes down to. But it's still open.
Yeah. Diverse is saying, guess there's no shot. Second round, maybe. Oh, and a little reminder of your preseason prediction: Lakers-Sixers finals matchup. Guess is nodding his head. Would you put music on in those Beats headphones all of a sudden?
More to come in the future. All-Star break coming up this weekend, actually. So we will have more Sixers talk in the future. But now, guys, it's time to go over the Super Bowl. Obviously, this past Sunday, the Chiefs end up winning it 25-22 in overtime over the 49ers, their third ring in 5 years, and the first team to go back-to-back since the Patriots in the early 2000s. I thought the first half was a drag, but I thought the second half and overtime was some of the best football that I had seen all year. It was truly a really good game. So I wanted to open up with this. Where would you rank it? Or let's say, what are the top 5 Super Bowls? Every time we do rankings, it's been since basically 2000. So let's take it from that era. What are your top 5 Super Bowls that you've seen in that time frame? I'll start with you, Al. You run down your list.
I want to say first, I think the only reason why this one would get thrown in the top 5 is recency bias. This one just felt bigger. Like everything about it just, I don't know if it was because of the talent on the field or just because we're living in an age where like everything is bigger because everything is viral and everything's on social media and it's in your face all the time. This one just felt bigger. But I don't have it in the top 5 of my games. Guys, I'm not really like the sports historian that you guys are. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to list these 5 Super Bowls. They're not really in an order, but when I think back to them, these are the 5 that I remember being kind of the most entertaining of the last 24 years. So I have the Pats-Panthers in Super Bowl 38. I just remember that fourth quarter being wild. All those points being scored was so fun to watch. I got the Steelers-Cardinals in Super Bowl 43. Steelers won that one 27-23. That big run back by who was it? James Harrison.
Yep.
Right. The big 99-yard return. I got
Santonio Holmes catch.
Santonio Holmes catch.
Harold caught the long touchdown at the end.
I got Super Bowl 49 Pats Seahawks with obviously the play at the end of the game, the interception thrown at the 1-yard line. Pats win 28-24. I got Rams Titans Super Bowl 34. That just makes the last 24 years. That was in the year 2000 with obviously the Mike Jones play at the end of the game there to save the touchdown. And then how can you be a Philly podcast not have the Eagles Pats? Eagles Pats 50 in Super Bowl 52, 41-33, Philly special. But from an outsider standpoint, one of the most entertaining Super Bowls of the last 25 years as well, I would imagine.
All right. I have some of the similar ones, but I got a couple different ones. So I had at 5, I had Cardinals Steelers. This guy Redskins versus Bills and Falcons versus Pats, another one. But I got Cardinals Steelers at 5. I got Patriots Seahawks at 4. Those are 2 games you already mentioned, Al. I got Eagles Chiefs at 3. I think Eagles Chiefs was a really fun game to watch last year, and I don't want to make it the homerism. I got number 2 Patriots Giants for historical purposes. It wasn't a boring game, but the fact of everything that was on the line, you want to talk about feeling bigger than it actually was. That game to me had a ton of historical, obviously with the Patriots going in undefeated and the Giants knocking them off. And I had number 1, I had Eagles Patriots as well. And I'm not a bleed green guy by any means, but that game was entertaining as hell. You mentioned out Philly special, the strip sack at the end, Tom Brady, Nick Foles. There was just so many highlight plays in that game that to me it was by far the most entertaining Super Bowl I've seen in the last 24 years.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we get scared. Well, I don't, but y'all two get scared to say Philly-related events for things like this. But the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl, for my money, was the best one I've seen. I mean, that game was a back and especially the second half was back and forth. It was Hurts versus Mahomes in that fourth quarter. It was awesome. And I think that everything that even at the end with the stupid call or whatever with Bradbury, the controversy, like people are still talking about it. That has not gone away into, wherever and forgotten about. So I have that on my number one. Rams Titans. I can still see Kevin Dyson reaching for that end zone at the end of the game, the last play. Like, imagine that. We talk about like being a sports fan and a kid who, when you grow up playing sports and like the whole magical moment of winning a Super Bowl and how it would feel to hit a home run in the World Series and all those things. How about being the person that you were a foot away from scoring a touchdown to possibly tie or maybe even set up to win the Super Bowl, and you're a foot short? Having to live with Dyson probably still lives with that every day.
I'm
like
sure he's thinking about it.
That stuff is probably like still in his mind, and the Titans fan base as well, because they haven't been back since that.
He was doomed ever since he was drafted ahead of my boy, of our boy, Mr. Randy Moss. That was it for him.
Pats Falcons, I have as number 3 because of the fact that everybody's favorite coach, Kyle Shanahan, even though he wasn't the head coach, but still as the offensive coordinator, watch his offense play literally visibly scared in that second half and just totally choke up that game. And also, that was like, you talk about goated. That's a goated moment, watching Brady do what he did. It was almost like he kept rising the guillotine up, and everybody knew it was coming. Once it was 28-10, like everybody knew something was happening, and that guillotine was going higher and higher and higher. And then all of a sudden, Tom was like, splat, it's a wrap, and dropped that guillotine on him. That was a goated moment. Pats Rams 2001. So that was Super Bowl 36. So everything that happened around 9/11, the Rams were the greatest show on turf still, and they faced this new underdog team in the Patriots. And of course, the classic line that Robert Kraft said when they won, where today we're all Patriots, rang totally different for everybody at that point in time in our history. So I put that on there as well. And then, of course, Nick Foles beating Tom Brady in Super Bowl 52. You can't not put that on there. You can call me a homer all you want. I mean, this guy was a backup quarterback that just ruled it. This came in against the GOAT and outdueled him for all intents and purposes. Now, the defense, that people forget Brady threw for what, 500 yards in that game?
Yeah, it was a shootout.
It was a total shootout. I mean, it was literally like Ali and Foreman going at it on the field as far as two gunslingers in that game. Not saying that Nick Foles was a gunslinger, but he damn sure was in that playoff run.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, listen, we've been blessed with some really good Super Bowls. There's been a couple of even other really good games that we didn't even get to mention in there. Al, the Panthers game was one that I didn't even think about, but when you go back on it, it was tremendous. Diverse in the chat to Sunday's top 5. Again, the second half and overtime of that game were fantastic. And, that was easily one of the better Super Bowls I've ever seen as well. And it didn't even make any of our lists. So
I even enjoyed, I know some people said the first half was boring. I enjoyed it because to me, it felt like a title fight where you got both of the boxers coming out and just feeling each other out, just throwing jabs for the first couple of rounds, like not showing everything at first. And there was a couple of messy turnovers that were uncharacteristic, but still, I wasn't bored by the first half. I heard a lot of that word getting thrown around.
Let's get into some of the Chiefs stuff because I know there's been some debate in our internal chat, and I'm curious to see where you are.
Yeah.
I put a question on there. Is this considered a dynasty at this point? And Al, you answered.
How is this not a dynasty? It's three titles in 6 years. They got 3 Super Bowl wins, 4 Super Bowl appearances, and 2 AFC title game appearances. It's 3 wins in 4 years, or in 5 years, excuse me. If you compare this to other dynasties that are solidified in sports history, the 90s Cowboys, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. Bird Celtics, 3 titles in 6 years. Bruce Bochy's Giants, 3 titles in 5 years. And the Big Red Machine Reds. All of these are comparable or have done less even than the Kansas City Chiefs, what they just did. I don't understand how there can be a question mark. 3 titles is pretty much the objective definition of a dynasty in sports.
So I think that's where the argument comes from. And I think, to me, we throw around words in sports a lot, and dynasty is one of them, and GOAT is another one, and him is another one. To me, on my definition, a dynasty has to be 10 years of
Whoa.
10 years.
Jesus.
It does. So it has to be. This is a tremendous run in my eyes of what they're doing, and I don't even need them to be like world beaters and win 2 of the next 4 Super Bowls. To me, dynasty, I think of New England Patriots. They did it for over a 10-year stretch. San Antonio Spurs did it for over a 10-year stretch. The late 90s, early 2000s Yankees did it for over a 10-year stretch of just being a complete franchise over that period of time. Golden State Warriors, they're there at this point in time of being a dynasty. So to me, I just need a few more years before I put them in that pantheon of dynasty. Great run. Will get to be a dynasty at some point, but I just don't think they're there yet. I need a little bit more than 6 years to be a dynasty in my eyes.
For me, I think you are confusing the terms dynasty and dominance. I think with those teams you just named them, that's just dominance. They just
Same thing.
The sport. No, a dynasty is not. It's not the same thing. A dynasty is you win. First of all, Kansas City has dominated the AFC East. They've dominated the AFC for 6 years.
I know. I said
I don't
10.
10 is a wild number. I just think that's you're looking for.
When I say dynasty, it's the best of the best.
And you don't think 3 titles in 5 years is the best of the best? If it ended tomorrow,
I don't even think they need another. I don't even think they don't need another title, but they just need to be good for 4 more years. Maybe get to 1 more. But I don't think they need to win another one. I just need them to be very good to win divisions to get to AFC Championship games for the next 4 years. The first is in the chat. So there are 4 in the history of all sports: Patriots, Celtics, Bulls, Yankees. The Bulls are another one, obviously, that I would put on that pantheon. Around that, like this year, these are dynasties. They should be the elite of the elite. Again, there are runs and there are dynasties in my eyes. And right now it's a run, and it'll eventually get to a dynasty. I'm not saying it won't, but I just don't think it's there right now because it's just been too short of a time frame for me.
I don't know. It just, that is what it is then. It's just your definition. You often, when we do our grading segments, you say that Guest and I are easy teachers and easy graders. And it's just showing that I think it's not so much you're a tough grader.
Yeah,
you want 10, dude, 10 years? That's like an eighth of a lifespan of a human. You're talking.
I got my 4-month-old doing push-ups in the backyard. Like they're
crazy. You're talking about a team that has to dominate all through someone's high school and collegiate academic careers in order to be considered a dynasty.
But teams have done it. Like the best of the best have done it.
No, I get that. That's what I'm saying. I think that it's for you. It's just you're looking for the elite. Not like, and I'm okay with it being the 3 title is the mark because of how difficult that is. I think that's very difficult to get to 3 titles.
No, it is. It really, really is. And I'm bringing Chris back on here. It's extremely hard to win 3 titles in 5 years. And I think 3, when we talk again, I'm talking about a 10-year time frame. I think 3 is the minimum. I think if you get 3, you're good enough to be considered that. I understand how hard it is, but I'm just talking about a dynasty being the best of the best of the best. And I just think sometimes we throw a ton of teams in with that word dynasty that maybe should just be a tier below at this point.
Well,
like have the Chiefs done what the Patriots did?
Not yet, but they did. They did.
Okay.
All right. So I'm glad that
wait. They did what the Patriots did in one of their stretches of being a dynasty because the Patriots were often looked at as 2 separate dynasties, but you're saying that they're just one dynasty.
Yeah, I would say it's one dynasty of dominance over a 15-year period of time or whatever, how long it was. Maybe even longer than that, honestly. Go ahead, Chris. You're back on here.
All right. So I'm glad that my computer did me a favor and shut down for a second while you spit that BS. So are you trying to say that this is not a dynasty?
Yes, that's exactly.
I'm going to keep it short.
How many teams have done that?
I'm going to keep it short just so because everybody heard my argument already. To me, a dynasty in my eyes needs to be 10 years of dominance in the sport. That's how I see it.
But that will never happen again. That will never happen.
What won't?
If that's your definition, you'll never see it again. There's no way you're going to have 10 years of dominance straight through 10 straight years in the NFL in today's NFL. Never happened.
The Chiefs have 6 right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I disagree.
In what world do you think the Chiefs will not get there?
And you both just argued that Mahomes is going to do it 2 weeks ago.
I'm not saying they won't do it. I'm not saying they won't get there. I'm saying they're not there yet.
No, Guest just said it won't happen when 2 weeks ago he said it's already clear cut.
Right, Guess. I'm saying, in what world do the Chiefs not get to 10 years?
All right, we're on the pages here. I said what's clear cut is Mahomes winding up being the GOAT based on passing Brady. But I didn't say it had to be within the next, what you said it's year 6? So I didn't say it had to be within the next 4 years. I mean, Mahomes can get in. No, I'm talking about what Al was saying. Mahomes can get injured. Anything can happen in any of those years to prevent a string of 10 straight dominant seasons.
Okay,
that's my point.
Let me rephrase it for again. You were off for a minute. Let's say, God forbid, Patrick Mahomes gets in an accident and loses his leg this offseason, and in the next 4 years the Chiefs go 3-13. I don't consider it a dynasty. I consider it a great run. Now, even if the Chiefs don't win another Super Bowl in the next 4 years, and they go 10-6 and they win 3 AFC West titles and they get to a couple championship games, then it's still a dynasty to me. They won 3 rings in 10 years. They were the pinnacle team in the AFC for that period of time. They were unbelievable. They will get there. I just don't think it needs to be a little longer for me. Again, if something happens and they go 3-13 for the next 4 years, I don't think it's a dynasty.
Yeah, Seltzer's bar is just it's way higher than most other people's. It's just different definitions because
that's my point.
A great run for me is like Andy Reid's Eagles went on a great run. I don't think you have to win a title to have considered being going on a great run. And Seltzer
that's what I was trying to say is
right.
The league is so full of parity, especially the NFL. It's so hard for teams. That's why we have that rule, unwritten rule of the NFC teams when they go to the Super Bowl, the percentage of them getting back is so small, and it's like the league is so even every year.
But I disagree with that statement, Chris, because
every year, hold on.
Okay.
Every year there's always a team that comes out and balls out and gets right there. Like we've had the Bengals before, we had the Rams, we had the Eagles. Like things can happen, and even now there's teams that are on the cusp, like the Texans. All right, they're right there with that defense and that quarterback that they just got. They're right there. The Packers could be a team that's right there. Like there's teams that are still right there waiting to get their chance. And to have that bar where in today's NFL with that parity better than it's ever been before, I think you're asking a lot. Like, I mean, there's only been 3 teams that have ever done what the Chiefs have already done, which is the 70s Steelers, the 90s Cowboys, and the 2000s and 2010s Patriots. So of winning 3 Super Bowls in a 5-year span. And all those teams have one thing in common. They're all looked at as dynasty teams, and they all have GOATs on those teams. And the Chiefs are no different. They have Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, and you could argue that Travis Kelce is a GOAT at his position. Those are all 3 positions, key positions, that they have 3 great all-timers on those teams. Steelers had it, Lynn Swann, Bradshaw, Stallworth, all those guys. The Cowboys, we know who they've had. The Patriots, we know who they've had. The Chiefs are no different.
And that's fine. And again, I think they will eventually get there. I'm just not ready to put it there. But I want to counter with you with parity in the NFL. I don't know. There's been teams that you look at Kansas City, they've been good for a long period of time. San Francisco's been to 4 of the last 5 NFC championship games. So they've been a dominant team.
And they can't get it done.
Well, I'm just talking about being good. I'm not saying winning titles. Only one team wins a title. Baltimore's
right, but the Chiefs have done that 3 times.
Say it again.
But the Chiefs have done that 3 times. That's why that run is so special.
I'm not disrespecting what they've done.
There's
again,
only been 3 teams that have done that.
I just think we throw the term again. You missed dynasty and GOAT and him. I just think we throw those terms around loosely, and I don't think they should be thrown around as loosely.
I think you are disrespecting.
Well, wait a minute. You're absolutely disrespecting them. Like
I think we're throwing around too loosely. You said Andy Reid's a GOAT. How's Andy Reid better than Bill Belichick at this point in time?
How's Andy? Oh my goodness.
What's the answer?
I don't. I don't see how you could still, after what we've seen Belichick do without Brady the last couple of years, you could still say that that's still a valid argument.
I mean,
Andy's
Belichick's
done
had
it.
more titles and more wins.
Man, for right now,
Okay,
that's
that's
not going
fine,
to.
but that's what we're talking about.
I think
There's
that
only been one GOAT in each aspect.
Yeah.
Andy Reid is the only coach to have gone to led two teams, a team from each conference to the Super Bowl. He now has 3 rings.
Sure.
And when people say that he ended up with, Andy got lucky because he got Pat Mahomes. No, Andy Reid went and traded up to draft Patrick Mahomes. He didn't just land in his lap. He went and got him because he identified what he could be. Now, that's part of his success. That's
You
not
say the same thing about New England, but drafting Brady in the 6th round.
right. But Tom is right there. Belichick's right there. I'm not saying that they're trash, but I'm saying that for my money right now, the potential is still there for Andy to become the GOAT. Like the potential is there still for
agreed.
Mahomes
But I'm
to
just
be
saying
GOAT.
right now he's not.
Yeah, guys, you keep on doing projections as when it comes to the GOAT. You can't. The GOAT is the GOAT. The GOAT is Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They're the GOATs.
So right now, if he never coached a game again, where does Andy Reid rank?
Probably 2nd.
Yeah, 2nd, maybe
okay, so
3rd.
Third. Who's second
Maybe.
then?
I'm just saying maybe. Some circles might have him in the top 5. Some
Like
circles take a
Don
little bit away
Shula
from
is out
him,
there.
some of the Eagles.
I mean,
Whatever. We're spinning in circles a little bit here. I want to move on to a couple other quick things about the Super Bowl. Al, you put on the 49ers' biggest mistake. To me, I thought they played a decent game. I didn't think it was bad, but the decision to kick off to take the ball in overtime was mind blowing to me, given the format and what we saw. That to me was the biggest mistake that they made. I don't know if you guys thought the same about that.
We're on the same page. I don't know how you can potentially give the ball to Patrick Mahomes with him knowing what he needs to win because you know he's going to get it. So just give them the ball first and then react to what happens with Kansas City on offense first. The second right behind that, I think, is just the soft defense that they played in the end of the 4th quarter there with 1:53 left. I get that it's Patrick Mahomes and he has 1:53 left and he has 2 timeouts. But dude, the entire defense was 10 yards off the ball the entire way down the field. They gave them that field goal. I just didn't understand that.
Yeah, that was it was just a bad decision. But again, this is what myself and a lot of people have been saying about Kyle Shanahan is when it comes to that bit. I texted you guys and I said that Shanahan is like the NFL Doc Rivers. I think that's what he's become. He's blowing just as many leads and series games, playoff win. Like he's done the same thing that Doc's done in the NBA, now in the NFL. And do you think about do you want your team to be led by a guy who is going to be really good in the regular season and get you to potentially a championship round, but has a history of coming up short? Or would you rather have a situation where you have a coach where you just kind of strike gold and whether it's once or however many times, they make the most of their chances when they do get them?
Not making the playoffs and not having a playoff team sucks. We just went through it with the Phillies, right? For the last however many years. But what sucks almost as much as that is having a team that has the expectations of winning a championship, but can never quite cross that threshold. So I think I'm going with option B. But if I'm an owner of one of these organizations, I'm going with option A because at the end of the day, the bottom line is to make money. So that's why we see guys like Kyle Shanahan stick around forever because he's going to win games and he's going to put butts in seats. He's going to sell merch and sell tickets.
But at what point do you get tired of that as a fan base? We got tired of Rivers real quick.
Again, as a fan base, yes, I get tired of it. But as from an organizational standpoint, as the president of an organization or the owner, I'm not going to get tired of it.
Well, and to your point, Rivers got right back in the saddle and went to a contending team And then also not only that, but now he's coaching in the All-Star game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
but
are
I
you
think,
serious?
I think the comparison, as far as for this year, is a little off, because I think you look at a Kyle Shanahan and you say to yourself, okay, we had a guy playing quarterback who was a 7th round pick, Mr. Irrelevant. He coached him up to get to that level. You look at a guy like Doc Rivers, who always seems to find himself in situations coaching the best players in the world, and they continually underachieve. I think that's a little bit different. Now, Shanahan does make mistakes in these big moments. I'll give you that. But for the most part, his teams, talent-wise, I think do seem to overachieve at times, especially at the quarterback position. He's now gotten Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy to Super Bowls, when the majority of people, at least in the beginning, would have said they're not Super Bowl type quarterbacks.
He's been responsible for now, or at least played a heavy part in 3 epic Super Bowl collapses.
I don't consider what happened on Sunday an epic collapse. Like, people are saying, it's 3 double-digit leads in Super Bowl. It was Super Bowls, 3 of them, or
Yeah, because
to
he was
me,
the coordinator for Atlanta.
Right. And the other one against Kansas City, which I'll agree to. But to me, like, a 10-0 lead in the first half in today's NFL is like a 15-point lead in the first half of an NBA game. To be like, oh, you blew a 15-point lead. It happens all the time now.
But I thought that was the most. I thought that was like the 85 Bears, that 49ers defense.
They leaked a little oil down the stretch, and they're also going against Patrick Mahomes. Again, it's not 10-0 in the fourth quarter. It's not a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. It's a 10-point lead in the second quarter.
He also didn't have to prepare. He didn't have to prepare at the end. They didn't know the rules. All right. Andy's been going over that.
His argument, I agree that I wouldn't have taken that route, but his argument against it, which does make a little bit of sense, was that in that situation, the team that gets the ball third wins when it's sudden death at that point. And he was like, we want to be the first team to get the ball if it's sudden death. Take it or leave it. I'm not buying it, but the explanation makes some sense.
That's total bull. That is not true.
Yeah, and no, I agree with Al. Okay. I think it was foolish. But again, to not have your team prepared, that again shows you to how great of a coach. And look, I was very critical of Andy when he was with the Eagles. All right, even when he was with the Chiefs in the beginning, very critical. But I've come and done a complete 180 with Andy Reid. I totally respect him at this point. I mean, I always respected him, but I didn't know about like if he'd ever be a championship caliber coach as far as getting a Super Bowl ring. But obviously now that's been defined. But like, to have those guys knowing what you've got and to have them prepared since training camp on new playoff overtime rules shows you the kind of level of coaching that we're dealing with. This guy's playing chess, and Kyle Shanahan was playing checkers, and it showed. These guys had no idea.
I don't understand the Philadelphia fans that have anger towards Andy Reid or dislike towards Andy Reid.
I don't either. I was one that was like, it's almost like you see your ex-girlfriend and they're doing their thing, and you got to get a little bit, whatever. I think that's what it is with the Philly fans right now. I think that a lot of us are just like, man, why did we let him go? How did we let him go? But since we did let him go, let's act like he was nothing anyway. And I think that that's just human nature. But the truth is, the guy's a great. I mean, let's play devil's advocate with that situation for a second. What if we had anybody else coaching Donovan McNabb that draft year, right? Everybody in that draft ended up, with the exception of him and really Culpepper, fading out really fast. All right. Yeah. So would McNabb have done the same thing if he didn't have a guy like Andy as his head coach? Who knows if Cade McNown might have been Donovan McNabb if he was coached by Andy Reid
or Achilles Smith.
Exactly.
Well, let's not like look. Coaching in the NFL, a head coach in the NFL doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's the quarterback, and if you don't have an all-world quarterback, you better have one of the best defenses of all time, or you're not winning a Super Bowl. That's it.
I think you need all the pieces. I think coach is as important as those other two pieces. Not as important, but it's a three-headed monster.
Dude, just look at Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. Like, these are the guys that have won Super Bowls in the last 20 years.
True.
And then the ones that haven't are like, the Seahawks with Pete Carroll when they had the Legion of Boom. You have the Eagles 1 year with Doug Peterson, obviously the flash, the lightning flashing. Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, the Giants with their defense. I mean, it's very rare that you're going to have a team win the Super Bowl that doesn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback or an elite or an all-time great defense.
Sure. I mean, we've talked about that earlier when we talked about contracts, rookie quarterbacks, or Hall of Famers. That's what you need.
But you could talk about you could do that again with the coaches though. Those Super Bowl champions. You got Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll. You talk about Drew Brees. You had Sean Payton. You had.
Is Sean Payton a good coach? He won one.
No, yeah, but he turned that team that was complete chaos this year into like at least a mediocre. That team was the worst team in the league in the first couple of weeks of the season, and he righted that ship.
I'm in on Sean Payton as a good coach.
Yeah, I mean he's not the best dude, but I mean he's like professional sports as a coach. Your job is, I think, primarily you got to be a leader of men, and you're leading the most men when you head an NFL team. That's 53 guys every Sunday that are looking to you like, yo, what are we going to do? And baseball's not that many, hockey's not that many, basketball's not that many, soccer's not that many. So I think it's still very important. You definitely need a quarterback. Don't get me wrong, Al. You're right about that. But I think a head coach, if you did that exercise in seeing the last X amount of championship teams, they're still all led by, with the exception of, like we said, the outlier in ironically in our coach we won.
Where do you have Bruce Arians ranked all time? Where do you have Gary Kubiak ranked all time?
Same place I have Jeff Hostetler and Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer.
Right, but those are the teams with the all-time defenses.
Sure, I get it.
Whatever. I'm just saying I don't think a coach is that important, and I think that we've seen that you need a quarterback more.
You could argue that the quarterback is more important than the coach, but I wouldn't say the coach isn't important. I think the coach is still very important. If at the least, it's the second most important.
No, I think it's third. I think it's third on the list.
What will be the second?
A defense.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. All right. Fair enough.
And before we wrap this segment up, I do want to shout out the Kansas City defense. They played on the way to the Super Bowl. Miami Dolphins, regular season elite offense. Buffalo Bills, regular season elite offense. Baltimore Ravens, regular season elite offense. San Francisco, regular season elite offense. Held them to 15 points per game combined over those 4 games. That defense was elite. And they have, I read today, they drafted, we talked about many times on here, paying your quarterback.
Football.
Say it again. 2 best cornerbacks in football. We talked about paying your quarterback and building a team. They drafted 7 starters on that defense since 2020. So they have young dudes running around.
Youngest. Yeah, they're the youngest defense in football. I was saying.
They're tremendous.
They're going to be around for a while.
One more hot take before we shut down segment 2. Al, you have quick hitters on here, and the one question you have is too much Taylor Swift. So go ahead, give me a 30-second answer, and then I'm going to give you a hot take on that.
Yeah, it was way too much. I'm sick of her. Like, I get that when celebrities are at games, you show them, right? As whatever. The cap on all of it for me was after the title winning catch, she was the first person they showed. That was horrendous to me. Like, I don't want to see Taylor Swift celebrating. And I'm hoping that Chiefs fans felt just as disgusted as I did. The last thing I want to see is a celebrity celebrating in the box after my team just won the title, and the celebrity that's been shoved down my throat now for the better part of 3 months.
Chris?
I get it, but that's not her fault. Like, these networks are all thirsty and just want to put her on every single thing. Like, this network just came out with the stats that, CBS just said this is the most watched event of our generation. They had over, I think it was 100 and, oh my God, I want to say 70 million people who watched it. It was just shy of Apollo 11 with the moon landing as far as the number one most watched show or event of all time. And guess why that is? Don't think it's because they wanted to watch Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. It's because those Swifties tuned in to watch their boy, because they all think that they're all with Kelsey because Swift is with Kelsey. All right. They came running to that TV set to watch that game to see their girl. All right. So it matters. Now, the one thing I'll say is it was annoying when every single time something happened, she looked like she had never seen a football play before.
100%.
Oh my God. Like, come on. Like, it's like 2nd and 6. Calm down.
Yeah.
Okay.
She hasn't, though, because you think about the way she was raised, right? She went at a young age and started her music career. She's living her high school years right now. Like when we would go to the Friday night games at Radnor High School to watch Carol play whomever, and we saw it happen when we were 14 and 15, she didn't. So now she's living that 14-year-old self right now. So I understand that. And I agree with everything you said. I'm not faulting her at all. I'm just saying,
Yeah, I was just saying,
personally, I just hated seeing her every 5 seconds.
And the other thing too is, before you go, Seltzer, I will give her credit that she also, when they won the game and they went to the field, she stayed to the side. She did not go on the stage. Brittany Mahomes, however, is all up on the front of everything. She's on the Disneyland commercial. She literally watched him and was behind him on the NFL Network when they were talking to him after the game. She's the one that, like, enough is enough. Like, if I don't see her again, that's one too many times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one that we should be talking about being pissed off about.
Yeah.
Was she on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in it this
Oh
year.
my God. See, and that's what I'm saying. It's just
they call her an entrepreneur.
An entrepreneur of what?
Entrepreneur.
Being a high school girlfriend, right place, right time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me give my hot take.
Nice.
I agree with all the things you said on Taylor Swift, but how about too much Jason Kelsey? The guy is everywhere. He's on. I go open up Instagram. He's got a Pottery Barn ad. He's got a Frank's Red Hot ad. He's just all over the place, and I'm getting a little tired. He's dancing around in a luchador mask at the end of the Super Bowl parade. It's just it's a little bit
bad for business. We're trying to get my man on.
There's a little.
We're trying to get him on here. We're trying to get him on here. It's bad for business.
Listen, I've met him. I love him. I've seen a lot of him lately. I've seen a little too much for me.
I disagree with that. I think that it's a good thing. He hasn't, he hasn't really been doing a lot of this stuff because he's been so focused on his craft for the last, decade plus. And now that he is on the verge of seeing the end of his career and he wants to go to the next part of his life and he's enjoying it. I don't, there's so many things that a guy like Jason Kelsey can do that's so being that he's so charismatic. And every American male's dude, like we all got, you know what I mean? Like that's the thing that's so appealing as a man to him is that he's me, he's you, he's like, you know what I mean? Like if we had that money in that situation, we would do the same thing.
It's overload. I've been overloaded.
Yeah, he's like the living embodiment. If Barstool had a mascot, like it's him.
Yeah, he's everywhere, man. He's everywhere.
I'll be honest. I actually wouldn't mind seeing more of him. I think that pause. I think that there's a lot more he can do that I'd like to. Let me see what you're working with, Jason. What's up?
All right,
on or off.
That's a hell of a way to wrap up football season for the 2023-2024 year. The Chiefs take down the 49ers in the Super Bowl. And we will see you guys in a few months, I guess, for what? Well, free agency and then the draft. I'm sure we'll have some segments before there and hopefully not too much craziness for the Birds, although it's already kind of started with Hassan Reddick. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. But, Chris, you hanging it up for the night here before we jump into segment 3?
Yeah, I'm going to have to – like I said, I'm on a minute restriction tonight. So I'm going to have to call it a day after the second segment. But it's been fun as always.
All right, Chris. We'll see you next week, bud.
All right, dude.
All right, see you guys.
Later.
All right, before we jump into segment 3, I want to talk about our other big sponsor, and that's SeatGeek. We worked with SeatGeek for a long time now. If you are a new listener, all you have to do is use the promo code 3Keystone, the number 3 Keystone, and you will get $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. You're going to a game, a concert, a comedy show, anything you're looking for tickets. SeatGeek's got the best deals. They have a really user-friendly app. It'll lead you the way, tell you what kind of deal you're getting, a great deal, a good deal, an average deal, a bad deal. $20 off, promo code 3Keystone.
Next Friday, the Philadelphia Union opened up the season, their home opener against the Chicago Fire. Tickets start at $29. You know what that means, Adam? Do the math.
You're $9.
$9 you're getting. You go down to the Sub, get a little dupe, and have a beer on us.
All right, let's get into segment 3. We'll bring a little touch of levity to the conversation here. Al, there's always been a debate. Should the Super Bowl be moved to Saturday? Should Monday be a holiday after the Super Bowl? All those things have come to fruition, have come to light, and it's time to debate what are the worst days to go to work, to have work. And we'll talk about Super Bowl Monday, I'm sure. I don't know if you put that on your list because that's kind of what spurs the conversation.
Yeah.
Here's my simple solution. Why can't we just move President's Day?
Yeah. Well, it's because it's Washington's birthday.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is just whatever the Monday. Yeah,
It's the
that's
third
true.
Monday in February.
Yeah.
I don't think the Lincoln or Washington family's going to have an issue.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
It's a simple solution.
Well, no, it wasn't always the argument just for the Super Bowl to move back to that weekend.
Well, I think the Super Bowl used to be it's back a week now because the season's 18 weeks instead of 17. So it used to be a 2-week difference. And I think that the NFL couldn't move it back that far. But now that it's just a week apart at this point, like let's just make it happen.
Right. Just move the whole season back one more week.
I mean, you can become president on that platform, I feel like.
Yeah. And you know what? I'd say the day after any title game that your team is in is probably one of the worst days to be at work. But the unfortunate thing is Philly fans, we don't know much about that. So we'd have to ask a Boston fan or an Alabama fan to have them give their opinion. I would imagine that, it doesn't get old winning a title and you don't want to be at work the next day, but you can't always keep taking off the day after they win the title. So I don't know what you do.
Is that your first pick? Is that what you're going with? It's not a draft. We're just riffing, but
no. I mean, that's not what I think is the worst day to be at work, but that's up. I mean, it's up there, especially again, two of the last 5 years when the Eagles or 6 years when the Eagles win the Super Bowl, the next day wasn't fun. Although I will say this, my employer did give me and the entire school district the day off after the Eagles won in 2018.
Yeah, I think a lot of people got off.
They sent us a call, which was completely unexpected because it's not characteristic of my district. And they sent a call just saying like, hey, we have off because of impending inclement weather. And if you remember, there was no impending inclement weather. So it was
cool.
kind of like a wink and a nod.
That's pretty cool. All right, I'll give it a go here. I didn't put too many on the list. I didn't put a ton of thoughts, so we might be pretty quick.
I got a few.
To me, the first really nice day of spring.
Yes.
So when you are in the office and you get weather like we got today in the Northeast, you get all this snow. When you get that first day, when let's say it hits the low 70s, and the sun is out, and you're just sitting in your office looking outside, being like, man, just wish I was outside. To me, that's probably the worst day of work of the year. Yeah,
I have that. That was the second thing I thought of, and I'll tell you why it was second in a minute here. I don't even have windows in my classroom. I'm in like this like weird spot where like they built on a new building, whatever. I can see the sky if I walk out of my classroom, but I got to physically like walk down a hallway and up steps to actually see the outdoors. So luckily right now, I don't know how nice it is when it gets nice out, but man, when you leave the building at the end of the day, and it just hits you, the sun, the birds chirping, kids are yelling and screaming, chasing each other down the block. Everybody has their T-shirts and shorts on, and you're in your slacks.
Windows down.
Yeah, windows down, music up. That's the best day of the year, man. So that would be the worst day to be at work.
Yeah.
That was a mandatory class cutting day at Penn State, the first day when it was really nice in the spring. And just, I'm sure that, Pitt and whatever else too. Just kids just lining the grassy knolls everywhere. A
lot of frisbees being thrown around.
Yeah, volleyball. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so you had something above that though.
But it's personal, so I'll make it quick. It was I actually when I got married back in 2015, I got married March 27, 2015, and it was a Friday. And the day before was the rehearsal dinner day. And I went to work that day because I just was like, it was my first year teaching. I didn't have a contract. I wasn't tenure. My first position in the district. And I was just, I don't know. I just like felt weird about taking that day off. And my colleagues actually like sent me home at lunchtime. Like they were like, just go home. Like, what are you doing here? You have too much to plan and get ready for. So that did suck. I was completely distracted all morning.
Yeah.
And if I had to do it again, I wouldn't have went in, but what are you going to
do? You don't know anything at that time.
No, you don't. You don't.
Yeah,
So here's one though that everybody can probably relate to. It's the opening Thursday and Friday of March Madness.
Yep, I have it on my list.
Those are the worst 2 days to be at work, dude. You're completely distracted the entire time, and all you're doing is scoreboard watching.
Now, like, here's a question: like, it seems like it's better now because you can stream it on the computer,
right?
But if you remember back in the day, you had no. If you had no way of knowing what was going on. You would go on CBSSportsline.com and you would just track the play-by-play.
It wasn't even that long ago before we didn't have True TV and
Right.
TNT and TBS in the mix. We were watching every game
Yeah,
at all
one
times.
game.
We were getting one game. We were getting they would cut if there was a game that was close.
And not only would they cut, but if you had a local team on, like a Temple or a Penn, you would never cut.
Yeah, forget it. You're watching Penn till the bitter end.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that was absolutely on my list. You remember when they came out with the boss button?
Yes. Yeah. And it just takes you to an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
They still have that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, luckily I'm at the stage where I'm teaching 7th graders. So I can't obviously just cut a whole lesson and say, hey, we're watching March Madness. But like at the end of the day, my study all period, something like that. Hey, it was a reward. Come to Mr. Ryan's room. We'll watch the games and everything's okay.
I remember when we were in high school, and obviously the first game started like 12:30-ish, give or take. And it would be like 6th or 7th period, depending on what you're asking. And people would be walking through the hallways and they'd be like, Bucknell's up 6.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah, no cell phones, nothing. You're just sitting there wondering.
Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, no, but listen, that's a fantastic one. This one varies from year to year depending on what the date is, but the day before or after July 4th. So when July 4th is like a Wednesday and you have to work the 3rd and the 5th, that's terrible. That's such a bad beat.
I can't relate.
Yeah, that's true. You're a summer guy.
Yeah.
I got some other summer ones on here, but when you think about that, like again, when you think of July 4th, it's like you want the long weekend. You get it on you get it on a Thursday and they'll give you Friday anyway. So you get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or like when you get the Wednesday, July 4th, terrible. Same thing as like a Wednesday Christmas almost.
I was just going to say Christmas is the same thing.
Yeah. See what it is this year. July 4th. It's a Thursday this year. So you probably get Thursday, Friday.
Okay. So you get the 4-day week, the 4-day weekend.
Yeah, it's almost always a 4-day weekend, except that Wednesday. That Wednesday's a killer.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So I have another one that kind of fits into that. It's the first day back after returning from a vacation. Because you still got the vacation on your mind. You're probably still not completely unpacked yet. You want to be anywhere but work. Like it just for the last probably 24 hours of your life, you've just been dreading being back to work. So the day after returning from vacation, to me, is a terrible day to be at work.
So let me jump on that one as well, because again, we're very different professions, you and I. I think this was probably worse 10 years ago, because now we have cell phones, right? So in my industry, like I can track my email when I'm on vacation. Right. But when you took a full week and then you came back in on a Monday and you hadn't gotten a chance to look at any email and you walk into 50 or 60 emails, you might as well spend the first 2 days. You're just backed up answering emails.
Just buried. Buried.
And the counter to that is obviously now you're on vacation and you're tracking your email, which may even be even worse at this point in your life and not what you should be doing. But no, that's a really good one. I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, when you come back to those loaded email boxes, that's no fun at all.
Yeah, I very rarely, because being a teacher, I get spring break, I get winter break, and then I get the summer off. So I very rarely have to actually take days off to go on a vacation. But I actually have my brother-in-law's bachelor party coming up in a couple of weeks, and I have to take 2 days off just randomly. And so if Chris was here, he could also speak to this. It also sucks because of what you said as a teacher, though. Now I have to plan lessons for those days. Then I have all the emails. So then when I get back,
how many emails you get? Like, what's your email load on a day?
It really depends. I would say the minimum I'm going to get is like 15-ish.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. In a bad day, if I'm catching a lot of emails for whatever reason, I'm looking at sometimes like 30.
That's a lot. Well, is it parents or just like school announcements, pretzel sales and shit?
Any little thing, dude. Any little thing. Where is so-and-so? They're not in my homeroom. Where are they? Missing cell phone this, or Mr. Ryan, I couldn't get into the assignment. It could be any.
So it's not all stuff you have to reply to. It's more some like FYI or stuff you're CC'd on and stuff like that.
It is, but if I'm away, like I will be in 2 weeks, I will take my email totally off my phone for those days. Whereas like if I'm just out sick, I won't do that.
Right. I'm with you. All right. I have another one that you're not going to be able to relate to, and it's Summer Fridays.
I'm sure that's terrible. I'm sure that's awful.
And I'll just add to this, and it's definitely changed, especially post-COVID. I'm in a position where I'm very customer I'm in customer relations, so I work on relations. When problems come up with our company, I'm the one they reach out to. And the amount of emails that come through on Fridays in the summertime now is minimal. I don't think very many people are doing a lot of stuff on Fridays, going into the office since the remote work world. I think it's kind of slowed down to the point where summer Fridays are considered very, very slow. I almost consider setting up a Friday meeting, especially Friday afternoon. Friday morning, I'm fine with. Friday afternoon meetings in the summertime, it's a violation at this point. Like, I just don't think you should be doing it. And hopefully no coworkers are listening to this. But like, it better be an emergency if we're doing something at that point.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that, though. I got to be honest. Once the PSSAs are over at my school, it's a really tough couple month stretch there. Not as much in middle school as in elementary school. In elementary school, kids were kind of programmed that the PSSAs were the end. And so when they were over, which sometimes they're in March, like kids would start packing it in.
Really?
So you really had to drag them across the finish line. Like I've had to have like some talks with parents and stuff saying like, hey, we got 3 months left. Like I get that the PSSA is over, but like I still got to teach stuff.
Right.
So that was hard. And it only gets harder when it gets nice out. So I can kind of relate to that, just not in the summer. So this is something that you and if Chris was here, you can relate to. The first day back after having a baby, and probably even that first week back.
That was awesome.
No, but I think it's the acclimation to what your schedule is like, and then going with you're not getting a lot of sleep now anymore, and
right.
You're taking care of another human, so your energy is being displaced in a place that it never was before. So in that sense, I think that's tough. I was lucky. Jackson was our first. He was born in the summer, July 7th. So I had a whole 2 months before I went back to school, right. Where I got to get used to it. But it still was tough. And this is more for the ladies that are listening, if there are any ladies.
For sure. Yeah. I wouldn't say the first day. I would say maybe the second week. The first day to me, I was like, let me get back out of this house. Let me get back to some sort of normalcy. My energy level was high. I was like, I'm back. I'm out of here. But then the second week, you get hit with it a little bit because you're starting to wear down. It's like the first day of school. Everybody comes back all happy. They say in the wire, everybody all happy and shit.
Yeah. That wears off real quick.
Yeah. All right. I only got one more on my list. And again, it's one that you can't necessarily relate to, Al. But the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, I would imagine that's shitty.
And I think, again, a lot of people have kind of taken that week off at this point in time, but nothing gets done during that week. It's impossible to reach people if you have to. If you have to go into an office, I mean, it's cold. You're just eating cookies and you're just waiting from one holiday to the other. I take it off every year. The week between Christmas and New Year's is just a terrible time to work.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I don't know what that's like. Although, wait, I will add this. When I was in sales out of college and I worked for Nutrisystem, the weight loss company, I was in the inbound call center. So we would take the calls of people calling up. And that week, the weeks leading up to New Year's, were the worst days because everyone's just eating. Nobody cares about a diet. But then January 1st would hit and the New Year's resolutions would come. And that was when we made our money. So we would work, like everybody could work free overtime as much as they want. We were all commissioned. So you'd work like a 12-hour day and you'd potentially make like 4 or 5 G's in a day.
That's fantastic.
You're just making, but it makes up for all the money you didn't make in November and December. So it was like kind of balancing it out.
Right.
But yeah, I remember we used to play quarters, like up against the wall. I don't know if you remember quarters. We'd like flip a quarter up against the wall. We used to play for like $20 a pop, just sitting there for 8 hours a day because you get no phone calls.
Yeah, that's tough.
So here's one kind of related to winter. The day where you're at work and it starts snowing a shit ton. You're just sitting there watching it, knowing that getting home is going to be an absolute nightmare and you can't do anything about it.
I always think about, do you remember the game when the Eagles played the Lions in that snowstorm probably like 10 years ago at this point?
Yeah.
And that storm was not supposed to be like it was. And that's the thing I always think about when that happens is those people that were at that game probably thinking, how the hell am I going to get home?
Yep.
Because you're right. Like when that snow starts coming down, listen, driving in the snow is no fun.
No, it's not. And I'm lucky to work close to my school district, but there's been stories when with some of those, snowstorms that came out of nowhere, teachers not getting home until 8, 9 o'clock, kids being stuck on buses. Remember Carol? The one year, I think you got stuck on the bus, right? Go ahead.
We walked to Christine Bosco's house. Walked.
Yeah, I got the last train home. I remember I was lucky enough that was the last one.
How far is he? Yeah, was 3 miles?
Yeah, dude, that's a walk, man. That's probably about 3 miles
in the snow.
Yeah, and it was deep already by the time.
In our shoes from Flacco's.
Yeah, with the nun bushes.
Terrible. That's a go. Yeah, man, it's the snow is no good, man. I hate it. Out there shoveling today, tweaking my back.
It's not good. My neighbor's a madman. He had like the entire half block shoveled both sides of the street.
Love that.
Before I was even off my Zoom classes today, man.
Love that.
You said you had no more. I have a couple more left if you're out.
Yeah, run through them.
All right, just 2 more, and these are both physically related. It's the day after leg day and the day after a concert.
Is the day after leg day the worst, or the day after leg? 2 days after leg day.
Yeah, both are terrible. You're right about that. It's like a 3-day stretch.
Yeah,
of just it being awful. So you're just dying as far as being able to walk around. And then the day after a concert, your ears are just ringing the entire day. It sucks.
True story. I've only been to one concert my entire life. Rod Stewart.
I can see that though, because you're not a big music guy. I'm not being a big live music guy. What was it?
Rod Stewart. That's my main man, Rod Stewart. In Camden.
Come on, man.
Dude, Rod's the man.
You gotta get to another concert, dude. You can't.
I'm good.
You can't go to the grave with that.
Why? You don't like Rod Stewart?
No.
Sir Rod?
Dude, no, I'm not a Rod Stewart guy. I respect Rod Stewart. I'm not a Rod Stewart guy. I can't imagine that being the only concert I've ever been to in my lifetime.
I'll tell you, Cyndi Lauper opened up for him, and she was terrible. Terrible.
How old are you? Did you see this in when you were 4?
Dude, Rod is a legend. Don't knock Rod. I can't.
For Rod Stewart.
I can't determine who opens for Rod. That's not part of my agenda.
But I'm just saying these are both stars from the 80s. I
really like Rod Stewart. He's the man.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, like for Cyndi Lauper to be opening for Rod Stewart, this sounds like a concert from like 1985, not 1999 or
2017.
Oh my God, Jesus!
2018.
That's crazy. You saw them 6 years ago?
Yeah, Megan got me tickets.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she went with you. That's a loving wife.
Listen. First of all,
that's somebody that's in tune with your interests.
Well, when I make her listen to Rod Stewart Pandora all the way down to Charleston, she got to drop a hit.
God, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Talk about a day I'd rather be at work.
I'm gonna send you Rod's greatest hits.
Yeah,
take a listen.
We know where your head's going to be if we ever have an 80s music draft.
Whew. Yeah, no doubt.
Rod Stewart and Cyndi Lauper. All right, let me close with this then. If we're done with these days, let me close with this real quick. So as a teacher today, we had a snow day, but it wasn't a snow day because we've used our 2 snow days that are allotted in the calendar where it's penalty free. You don't have to make any days up. So now with the advent of Zoom, we are now in virtual day territory, as most school districts are in the state of Pennsylvania. What that means is that we have to be on Zoom, and there is a schedule that the students have to go, and they have to be in each teacher's class at this specific time. Now, at first I thought, okay, this is really smart. Let's use the technology because then we don't have to add days on to the end of the year. We don't have to add days take days back from spring break week, which we've had to do before in the past when we had a lot of snow days. But then I went downstairs and I had my coffee and my kids were on the couch and I said to them, hey, why don't you guys go knock up for your friends? Like there's plenty of snow out. You guys can go play. Their friends are in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade. So they're all a little bit older. And immediately Casey goes, they can't. Their friends are on Zoom all day. And I said, oh, that sucks. Like that's terrible. These kids woke up. They didn't know they were getting a snow day. They had no idea. My kids were screaming when they saw the snow out the window. And now they're stuck inside. They can't even play in it because they have to go on Zoom, which is not real school. they're not really truly getting anything as far as the curriculum goes that's going to advance the curriculum because I can't really teach it. And they're just stuck inside. I would gladly trade a day at the end of the year to have the impromptu snow day where the kids can play outside.
Maybe you give Jackson a shovel and let him shovel with the crazy man across the street. Give him some work ethic.
I'm just sad that we have a whole generation of kids now that are not going to know what a snow day is other than the first two because we got to do work. We got to go online and ding, ding, meet on Zoom.
Yeah, no, listen, I completely get what you're saying. I'm not a snow day guy though. We talked about this before we jumped on, so I can't have your back. I'd rather have the day at the end of the year. But let me ask you this, because again, you said we're going to close, but I asked my neighbor this today when we were outside shoveling. So you mentioned the thought again 15, 20 years ago about virtual school was completely out of the spectrum, right? There was snow day was a snow day. And,
Right.
and that was that. School wasn't giving out laptops. You didn't have anything like that. Do you think 50, 75 years from now, there's going to be another alternative to shoveling the snow?
Yeah, there has to be.
Do you think you could get like a little ball and you just like throw it in your driveway and just evaporates everything? Could you invent that? You mean that's the
I would
Yeah.
imagine the invention will be something that you put on the ground prior to the snow. Some kind of heat system, some kind of heat wrap or heated liquid or something that will evaporate, the snow will evaporate on as it touches it. So something that takes the cold and maybe turns it into heat.
we should look into that.
We should.
We should
should.
look into that.
We're too busy on this podcast every week.
Somebody call Malatak.
Look at all these references tonight.
Shout him out. All right, anything else before we shut this thing down?
No, happy Fat Tuesday to everybody that celebrated today. I'll be in New Orleans in a couple weeks, so if you see me down there, let's grab a beignet.
Love me some beignets. Bring some back.
I'll do what I can.
All right. Until then, let's drop that beat.